Huh? Now I wait to see what the hell we're doing. Slide right up.
It's not the one we called up, is it?
Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down.
Woke up alive again on the funny farm. Had one of those can't sleep nights last night. Don't those suck? Don't you hate that? When you can't sleep and you're rolling around, flipping over like a frickin' pancake nonstop. Sucks. Turned on the laptop here this morning and all the latest cheesy ass news headlines come up, except for one headline caught my attention. It said, Montana, first state to ban men dressing as women and reading to school children. Bravo, Montana. I can't believe it's only one state. It should be the entire planet, right? Sometimes I bite my lip, sometimes I don't, but some topics probably need to be talked about. And I almost made a post on social media a few days ago while I was alone here for 4 days. I was gonna go, yeah, well, you know, wife and kids away, got the place to myself. I thought we'd round up 10 or 12 guys, and if anybody knows of any 13-year-old boys that like to dress up as female strippers and work the pole on a dance floor, we'd really like to have them over for a night. Said no one ever. Unless you want to go straight to jail or get shot. Right? Yeah, there you go. I'll bite my lip. Unrelated to what we'd normally talk about here, but some things need to be exposed, And people need to say what's right and do what's right. You do not let men dress as adult, female, provocative strippers, read to adolescent children in school, and do not dress up children as adult strippers and egg them on to dance like a stripper in front of a room full of frickin' pedophiles. You don't do it. There's my little rant for the morning. Take from it what you will or leave it. We got a lot of voices to get heard. A lot. This is titled Incident Number 1. Several years ago, I climbed up into my tree stand for a morning hunt. It was about an hour before daylight. After getting into the stand, I was tying off to the tree when I heard something trudging through the water of the nearby swamp. I waited several minutes, just listening because it was too dark to see anything. After several minutes of not hearing anything, I pulled my rifle up with a rope, and as I did so, it was clanking on the climbing sticks all the way up. So much for being stealthy. As soon as I had the rifle in my hands, I heard something that sounded like a grunt/huff and then a loud, high-pitched squealing sound that I thought was probably a rabbit or other small varmint being attacked by a bear or cougar. There was some light snow on the ground, so my plan was to go investigate when my hunt was over, to see if I could find any tracks or blood or anything. However, a beautiful buck came through later in the morning, which shifted my attention to repositioning my stand in order for an opportunity to harvest him during the afternoon hunt. I still don't know what it was I heard that morning, and I always passed it off as most likely a bear, but the thought of it being a Sasquatch has always been in my mind too. Incident number 2. A couple years ago during the Memorial Day weekend, I was camping on some state land not too far from where I live. I know this place because many years ago, myself along with some co-workers camped at the same spot for a weekend and did some bow hunting. This time I was all alone, except for when my wife, daughter, brother, and parents came to hang out by the fire one evening, and when my daughter camped out with me one night. After getting camp set up, I walked around to check the area out, and I found a stick structure like I've seen in some of the Bigfoot shows that I've watched. The camp is a big open area surrounded by hardwoods, with a dirt seasonal road on one side, a 2-track on one side, and nothing but forest on every other side. The stick structure was located at the far end of the clearing, near the road. I texted some photos of it to an old coworker that was at camp the time we bow hunted out there, because he's a believer in Bigfoot. He only asked what I thought it might be. When I said it looks like a Bigfoot stick structure, at least from what I've seen on TV, all he said was, and I never mentioned it to him again to this day. I showed my parents and my brother and jokingly told them that I thought it might be what I thought it might be when they came and visited me at camp that evening. But they weren't interested. My thought was that someone built it and placed it there so that other people would find it and think it was a Bigfoot structure. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because even though it was located near the road, it could not have been seen by someone on the road because it was behind some trees, and it wouldn't be found by someone camping out there unless they were hiking around the clearing. It didn't appear that it was a frequented camping spot, or that anyone had camped there recently, because the fire pit was overgrown with grass and weeds. So, though I don't know for sure what it was or why it was there, it sparks my curiosity. After the snow had melted the next spring, I went to see if it was still there, and it had fallen due to the snowfall and the winds, I'm guessing. Incident number 3. Same area as incident number 2, later in the summer, my dog and I were walking down the seasonal road that goes by the camping spot. On our way back to the truck, I think I heard a couple of wood knocks, almost directly across the road from where the shelter was located. However, I'm not sure because I wasn't really paying attention when I heard it. Afterwards, I thought it might have been a woodpecker, but I don't know. The area where it came from was on a hardwood ridge above the road. So to take a look, I didn't see anything. The fact that it was almost directly across the road from where the structure was a bit freaky. It didn't seem like a coincidence. I have no idea what the purpose of those structures are, but it made me think that with it being near the road and the knocks coming from the other side of the road, that maybe it is something they would use as a marker or watch from. Who knows? Is it number 4? Just a few weeks ago, my parents and I were camping in a fairly remote forest of North Michigan. The first evening throughout the night and early in the morning, we could hear the elk bugling. It was cool. My parents were sleeping in the truck camper, and I was in my tent, which had a tarp both under and over it to protect from getting wet from the rain. The first morning while I was sleeping, and before my parents got up, right at daylight, I was awakened by what I think was a loud whack from somewhere close to by our campsite. It was one of those things that I thought I heard, but I was sleeping, so it's possible that I didn't actually hear it. However, the last time I was awakened by something that I thought I heard, but wasn't sure, was when a car driven by a drunk driver flipped over in front of our house in the middle of the night. The sound woke me up, but I had to ask my wife if she heard it too. When she said she did, we went out to find a car rolled over with the driver who had been tossed from the car laying on the side of the road. The remembrance of that incident leads me to believe that I did hear something that morning. My parents are early risers, so I thought if they heard something, they would have said something to me about it. But since that day, I figured they must not have heard it, and I didn't ask them if they did. Our last night there, which would have been 2 nights later, I was awakened in the middle of the night by what sounded like something walking very slowly on the tarp, which was below my tent. This has me totally confused because there was only about 2 inches of tarp extending beyond the walls of the tent. It went on for quite a while until I rolled over on my cot because I was getting so uncomfortable in the position that I was in. I was listening that I had to move. If something was on the tarp, it was literally inches away from me. Whatever it was left after I moved on the cot. And I went back to sleep after a while, but then it returned right at daylight. I could hear the sound on the tarp for several minutes, then it was gone. I drifted back to sleep and was awoken again by something big walking pretty quickly through the ferns that surrounded our campsite. Then a loud whack. It was very close to our campsite. Possibly even within our campsite. Then it was gone. I heard the camper door shortly after that, so I got up, told my parents about the experience, and asked them if they heard the sounds, but they didn't. I looked around for any kinds of tracks or signs, but didn't find anything. I have no idea what it was, but it had me freaked out. Maybe because I watched too many of yours and David Politis' videos. It could have been a cougar or a bear, but there was no grunting or sniffing sounds, and I would expect a bear to have, especially being that close. One other thing I almost forgot, there's a little lake that is located a good hike behind the campsite that I wanted to go find. My parents didn't want to go because the ferns were wet from all the rain we were getting, and they didn't want their clothes to get wet. I had my rain suit, so I thought I'd go check it out. As I was walking through the ferns, I happened to look over and see that some ferns were moving, like something had just moved through them. There wasn't any wind, it was moving them. I waited looking around to see what it might be, and I thought I saw something from my peripheral vision through the trees and ferns, possibly running. Maybe I'd spooked a deer, I don't know, but all I could think of was how you talk about your sixth sense and how David Politis says if something seems off, don't ignore it, and how not to go alone. Well, here I was alone and something felt weird, so I turned around and got back to the camp as fast as I could. This is our first day at camp. After hearing the whack that morning, so I was already a bit unsettled. I've always had an interest in Bigfoot since I was young, but never really believed in its existence. These experiences make me wonder, and listening to your insistence that they are real, as well as all the stories that you share from others who claim to have had experiences, also make me wonder. Listening to David Politis share the stories of missing persons in wilderness areas also makes me wonder. It's definitely possible that they're out there in the vast wilderness. I just have difficulties reconciling their existence with what the Bible says about creation and man being God's image bearers and being basically supreme above all other creatures. Thanks for allowing me to share, and hopefully this is helpful to someone. Keep doing what you're doing. Jason Knorr, Knorr. Hey, Jason. There you go. Shared, man. Shared. At least you didn't have anything staring you down, right? Not yet, anyway. Not yet. Okay. Vancouver Island. Hey, this will not be one of the most spectacular stories you receive, but for what it's worth, here it is. My name's Jason, another one. I was born and raised in rural North Vancouver Island and spent most of my childhood in the woods. I do not hunt, but I'm an avid hiker and camper. I'm currently in the Canadian military and have been for the past 19 years. I've been on several deployments all over the world and have had many hair-raising experiences, but the one I'm about to tell you happened before I joined the CF. and has really stuck with me. In 1994, I went on a camping trip with my then girlfriend, Virginia. We drove her van to the northwest coast on Vancouver Island to a place called Raft Cove near San Jose Bay. Virginia was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and we pulled up to the parking area. From the parking area, the beach is about a 45-minute hike. The van was in park but still running when I hopped out. Virginia was still in the van digging around for her water bottle. As soon as I got out of the van, I could smell a terrible smell permitted in the air. It was like a wet dog mixed with vomit. It didn't smell like rotting flesh or death, just really pungent and strong. As I scanned the immediate area to locate the source of the smell, I realized I could hear an odd sound. I thought the sound was coming from the van. I thought to myself, oh great, the van's going to break down and we're going to be stuck here. I popped my head into the van and asked Virginia to shut off the engine. She did, but the sound persisted. I was relieved the sound wasn't coming from the van, but when I listened to it, the hair immediately stood up on the back of my neck. It sounded kind of like something was chewing on a bone, but very loud. Like you put your ear right up to a large dog's mouth while he was chewing a bone. Again, I scanned the area, this time to locate the source of the sound. I walked down the side of the van and around the rear. The sound seemed to be right in my ear. As I walked around, it didn't get louder or quieter. I couldn't determine the direction it was coming from. I stood there for about 45 seconds when suddenly an intense feeling of dread mixed with fear and anxiety washed over me. I get goose pimples just thinking about it. This is one of the most intense feelings I've ever felt. My immediate thought was to get back in the van and get the hell out of there. As I turned and walked briskly to the passenger side of the door, I heard a very loud thump and felt the ground rumble under my feet. That caused me to break into a quick jog. No doubt. I jumped into the van and told Virginia, something's out there. We can't camp here. Start the van and let's get out of here. I don't spook easily, so when she heard my voice and saw my demeanor, she didn't ask any questions and did what I asked. I told her my encounter later down the road, but I toned it way down as to not freak her out. We went on to camp at San Jose Bay, but I didn't sleep the 3 days we were there. No doubt. Was it a bear? Maybe, but I don't think so. The way the sound seemed to be directed straight into my brain, and that crazy, irrational, intense feeling of dread that came over me was something I've never felt before or since. I've not even in my experiences deployed the military. It was like the feeling didn't come from within me, but was projected at me. Anyway, there it is. I haven't thought about that experience for years until I found your YouTube channel. It's nice to know other people have similar stories out there. Jason. Okay, thanks, man. Especially thanks for saying exactly where, right? So, I'm guessing, whoever's listening, if you got some kind of a crazy experience from that area, or even a sighting, or whatever, you know what to do. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Share it in, chime in, alright? You know what it was, Jason. We just don't know why. Why? Why did they do that? Didn't sleep for 3 nights. Said nobody after hearing a bear. Alright. What do we got here? Another one. And another, and another, and another, and another. 1992, Sunset Inn Road, Chateauguay, Lake, New York. Either Chateauguay or Chateauguay. Probably Chateauguay. Lake, New York. My experience was on Saturday morning in August. As a cyclist those years, Saturday mornings were spent cycling from Chateauguay Lake towards Lake Placid. I was a climber, so I was always looking for the hardest climbs to challenge me. The big climbs were in and around Whiteface Mountain. Not the Alpe d'Huez, but sure felt like it. Or, sorry, Alpe d'Huez? Whatever. Around 6 a.m. I was on my bike making my way around Chateauguay Lake on the Sunset Inn Road. As you leave the lakeside, you immediately begin to climb towards the south. On my left is a well house for a natural spring. Oh, there's cat hairs everywhere. Sorry. The water continuously ran out of an old pipe sticking up from the front of the well house, 6 feet wide, 9 feet long, and about 4 feet high. Best and coldest water around. As I passed the well house on my left, I just came out of the saddle, began my climb. Something was there, and as I craned my neck, all I saw was a curtain of brush closing. Whatever was there 1 second ago was gone in a blink of an eye. I remember thinking, I surprised something drinking from the pool of water, where the water flowed from the pipe. The next 5 minutes was sheer terror. I could see the brush behind the well house still moving and giving me an idea. Oh look, there's Adventure Dog. Hold on a second. I could see the brush behind the well house still moving and giving me an idea of the trajectory of the animal through the bush. I saw the brush move back towards the road I was on, and I said out loud, "Let's get a look at you." The movement stopped, and I continued to climb, looking for the first glimpse of the mystery which never came. I tried peering into the bush line, but saw nothing. As I was about to relax, a scream came at me from less than 20 feet inside the tree line. I have no explanation for the scream except for the absolute power in the scream. I've heard some howls on YouTube that were similar in sound, but not the force it had. I knew I was rattled and would run another 50 yards or so, and as it would pass, it knew I was rattled and would run another 50 yards or so, and as it would pass a large tree 2 or 3 foot on the stump, spruce or hemlock likely, it would either jump up or climb up the tree and slap the trunk 8 to 12 foot up the tree. The tree looked like it would fall. As I would pedal by the tree that was slapped, I would hear/feel a growl that felt worse than the scream. The hill is around 3/4 of a mile, maybe more, before a swampy area engulfed both sides of the road. The thing slapped and growled around 5 or 6 times as I climbed. As soon as the water touched the trees, everything stopped. The speed that this thing had was amazing. I cannot forget how swiftly it moved just beyond my vision. The force used to slap or rap the large tree, I can't even fathom. I never saw it, I never smelled it. Whatever this thing was, knew exactly what it was doing to me. Knew the dread it would cause. I remember that day more vividly than any other event in my life, including the birth of my 4 children. I cannot help but believe that this creature was a Bigfoot. The scream still has the same feel of dread when I simply remember it. The power it took to slap a large tree hard enough to dislodge a shower of green needles and dry branches is indescribable. I've shared this story with a few people. An old timer that grew up in the area said he and his sisters would hear rocks banging and whoops when they were children, and when the parents were close by, the rocks and whoops stopped. Another lady that lived 5 or 6 miles away said that something would chase her uncles out of the woods back in the 50s. It would shake a large tree just over a hill and scream down at them. There were safe times of the year to go into the woods and not so safe times. The nearest town is Lyon, Mount, New York. Lyon. Old mine shafts and air shafts dot the woods for miles around. I never took Sunset Inn Road again. I just showed my son the area this past Saturday. The hill isn't steep by any means, gradually stopping where the water surrounded the road. Almost 30 years now, and not a day goes by where I don't think to myself, whatever it was, if it wanted me, it could have just walked out and snatched me, bike and all. Love you, brother, keep it up. First time I ever wrote the experience down, keeping my name out of it for fear of ridicule. I hope you understand. Take care. I get it, man. I get it. And I hope, one thing though, I hope you're honest with your kids. Right? Now you felt that terror and experienced that power and that feeling of absolute helplessness. I hope you're honest with your family about what you saw. Right? I would be. I hope you are. I mean, we don't need to share your name or anything, man, but I'll tell you what. When I hear from people like you and the impact it has and you got children, I just pray that you're being honest with your children. and teaching them truth, right? It's truth. You didn't make it up. You didn't ask for it. It's truth. You know? It's truth. We gotta speak truth no matter what. And as long as we keep speaking truth, then the fright of ridicule leaves, right? And it's not there anymore. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. No pains come my way yet. Obviously, a lot of fights come my way, but big deal. Anyway, appreciate you sending that in, man. Absolutely appreciate you sending that in. And the details of where, right? Especially the details of what and where. Okay, my story is from 40 years ago. I just hitchhiked from CT to Oregon. My friend and myself, I was 19 at the time, it was 1979. We arrived in Eugene, Oregon, and had nowhere to go. So we heard of Skinner's Butte from some locals. It allowed camping at the time. We had our little pop tent and our bags and set up camp. Had a small fire and made some Dinty Moore beef stew. Haha, never forget it. Anyway, after we ate it, it was dark. We were very tired, decided to call it a day. We went into the tent and fell asleep. Don't know how much time passed, but I awoke to some noise outside the tent. I lay there trying to figure out what it was. Then by the glow of the fire I saw a shadow, and it was huge. Now all things on the outside looked that way, but this creature stepped one leg over the tent and straddled it with ease. It stood there for at least 20 seconds, the longest 20 seconds of my life. I could hear it breathing and making low, growling type noises. I was scared shitless. I reached over, shook my buddy awake. He opened. His eyes looked at me. I pointed up. He looked up and just let out a scared shriek. That's when it left. I heard its very heavy footsteps. Reached for the zipper and got up and out as fast as I could. Just fast enough to see it for a couple of seconds in the moonlight, and it was huge. Covered in dark hair. Not fur. It really was too long. It was very fast for something so large. Needless to say, we didn't get any more sleep that night. Thanks for your channel. I've never told this story in over 40 years. Didn't think anyone would believe it anyway. Jerry from CT. Well, you found your people, Jerry. And I'll bet you guys went hitchhiking straight back to CT, didn't you? Was that Connecticut? I think that's the first time we heard one straddling a tent. I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've had stuff outside my tent. That'd be a real shitty experience. Kind of reminds me, I'll tell you this one little quick funny story. In a way funny. Had this buddy of mine, real good buddy, real good guy, 6'4", tough as nails, cowboy from Alabama. And we did a fly-in hunt, and I was guiding him for a stone sheep in the middle of absolute nowhere. And we had to go to Dees Lake, take one bush plane flight out to a remote river, 100-something miles. And then from there, the outfitter who I was guiding this hunt for, then bunny hopped us over to another remote lake, dropped me off first, and then that was when I had to sleep on the ground. Because I put a video of me sleeping beside the fire on the ground in the forest area so they couldn't make it back, and all I had was nothing. But anyway, that particular spot in that timber where I was slept by the fire, then finally my buddy got flown out, and then we set up the tents right there, and then we were going to carry on and start hiking. And it's dead freaking quiet. All of a sudden you hear him go, "Man, there's something out there, what the hell?" I'm in my tent, we're about 30 feet apart maybe. I go, "Well, what is it?" "I don't know." "Well, I go open up your tent door and have a look." "I'm not, no way. I ain't, no way." Right? I'm like, "Stop it." So I get out of my tent with my flashlight, looked around, there's nothing there. I couldn't feel anything. Like I did not feel any alarm, no pressure, it's all good. And then, I'm like, "There's nothing out there, man." He goes, "No way, I heard something." And I go back in my tent, I'm like, "Oh man." And probably 15 minutes later, he lets out a couple choice words, swear words. what the hell is that? There's something's out there. And I'm like, well, go take a look. I'm not going out there. Oh my God, it was so funny because they've got this guy, he can basically grab me by the neck and pick me up, right? And he is not opening up that thin nylon door of a tent, right? And then I think it was that same night, or maybe at the end of that one hike, because we got dropped off in multiple places over 3 weeks. And it was dead quiet, and that lake was downhill. I made sure we camped uphill from there's a game trail along that lake, a game trail. And it was steep timber on both sides, and across the lake was only about 300 yards. And you could do a pin drop, and all of a sudden you just hear this kabloosh, 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 kabloosh echoing off the side of that lake. Crystal clear. The sounds were just so clear, and it was a moose coming straight at us along the lake. And at nighttime, the air cools down, right? So daytime heats up, cools down, as a rule, no matter where you are. So that cold air is sinking non-stop all night long, right? Unless you have a definite storm breeze. And then I knew it was only a matter of time, that moose, when he gets beside my tent, he's going to smell me. And the sound of the moose feet hitting that water was so loud, and you could tell it was big. Kabloosh, kabloosh, you know? And he's like, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I hope he runs the right way when he shuts himself, because it would really suck having a moose stampeding through your nylon fortress. And then sure enough, boom, it's like a gunshot went off. Bam! And all of a sudden, you just hear that moose-sized thing ripping through the lake into deeper water in a panic. It was so loud. It scared the shit out of me, buddy. Anyway, sorry man, but you just put me there for that memory. Straddling the tent, that's really making a statement, isn't it? And not very nice thing to do. And that's like another thing too, sorry about the babble, but it's the confidence that surprises me. It's like, it's just so much shit does not add up because we have a pattern of their absolute confidence with us. Meaning, they got no problem sneaking up on us in the dark in the night into a campsite, walking around a tent, standing over the tent, right, banging on the window of a camper. When if you put the shoes on the other foot, take a look at it being you and them being in the camp. If you were being one of us, just a regular human being, if I'm in the forest, I'm looking in the forest right now, and I look in the forest, and about 100 yards through there, I think I see something camping. Oh, it's oh wow, it looks like it's 3 8 to 10 foot tall, 1,000-pound hair covered frickin' monsters. I'm gonna go sneak right up to their tent. Said no one ever. Right? But they do it. That confidence is absolutely ridiculous. But then, when you see one, they see you looking, and another pattern is they shit themselves and run. And try to get away as fast as they can. Unbelievable speed. Just some things just don't add up. It doesn't make sense, right? It's like, wait a minute. You got the absolute no fear, absolute confidence to slip up right to my tent in the middle of the night, even if there's like 4 or 5 of us there. But if I lay my eyes on you in broad daylight, you run like I'm about to blow your head off? I don't get it. It's so bizarre, right? It's not consistent. That demeanor isn't consistent. It's odd for me to take note of. Babbling. Excuse me. Here's another one. This one's titled The Black River Monster. Black River Monster. Hey Steve, thanks for giving us a platform to air our encounters. My name is Chris McWonder, and I'm a free man, so use my name. Right on, brother. My only encounter happened to me 3 years ago in Missouri. I had moved there for work and worked many office hours. I'm an avid hiker, so anytime I could escape the office, I hit the trails. It was a Saturday morning when I started uphill at the beginning of the Black River, the place where I fished and hiked often. As I got approximately 7 to 8 miles back, the trail started to fade. I then started walking on a deer run, trying to find an easy path to the top of the mountain so I could sit and have lunch and head back. That was my plan, but I never made it to the top. As the trail winded up, I saw several big buck rubs as my mind wondered about hunting here in the fall. I continued walking and daydreaming when I started getting hit with pieces of branches. The first few I just assumed to be a squirrel was up in the tree knocking them down on me, but one hit the side of my neck, and I picked it up and it was a green branch twisted apart. Still not too concerned, I continued on my hike. As I came out of a group of pines, I could see a large, hair-covered creature standing on two legs directly on the deer run I was walking on. It was staring me down, and I immediately began to feel helpless and small. I literally looked right into its eyes, and I felt extreme hatred. I spun around, ran for about half a mile, and stopped to see if it was following me. I was relieved not to hear or see it coming. I hustled back down the trail to my car. This experience has changed me as a man and how I feel about life. To say it was life-changing is an understatement. I'm still trying to come to grips with what I saw. I haven't stopped going into the woods, but have or will never go back to that area. It was covered with black hair, with some areas thinner, about 7 feet tall. I believe it didn't want me to continue to the top of that mountain for a reason. It tried to scare me by throwing the branches, and when I ignored it, he went to plan B, which was to intimidate me. And believe me, it worked. That's my encounter. Thanks for letting me get this off my chest. I feel a weight has been lifted by having a place to tell this. I never told anyone about this, and probably won't because of the backlash. Thanks again, Steve, for what you do. And again, don't use my name because I'm not ready for my family to know. Shit. That sucks, man. You know what? You got somebody in your family you really want to tell this to. Maybe, I don't know, send them this video first. Warm them up. Warm them up. God, I got stuff in my eyeballs. It sucks. It sucks that people can't tell people. A lot of people are now, right? We got hundreds of thousands of people lined up. But it just sucks still. There's so many people out there. You've got that frickin' human herd mentality hammered into them to be scared of sharing truth. You didn't ask for this, dude. You didn't ask for this. It's not your fault. Yeah. Maybe try. Just do it. Send them this video. Somehow try to get them to be sure they listen to the whole thing, and then ask them what they thought. Engage them in the conversation, and then tell them that was you, whatever it is, the third one in or something. You know what I mean? I'm glad you found this place, because we don't push this place at all or market it in any way. The title of the YouTube channel, you would never have a frickin' clue what we were talking about, what this channel's about, right? I think that's probably why so many people are coming forward when they find it. Anyway, I'm glad to share it. I hope it helps hearing it. Alright, what is this one? Oh, read that yesterday. Mark it as read. Where am I going here? Alright. Indianapolis Indians is the title of this email. Mark it as read. Hey Steve, this is a real quickie, but I know you guys like quickies, lol. I lived inside the city limits of Indianapolis in the 70s. At that time, there was more farmland inside our city limits than any other place in the country. We lived in the Meridian Hills, in a fancy neighborhood next to a private school that had a lot of wooded land around it with a small pond. The house across from us sat on 3 acres. We had a big revenue behind our house with numerous trees. One day my neighbor rang my doorbell and asked if I would come look at something. Of course I joined her outside, and between our houses was the biggest cone-shaped pile of crap I've ever seen. It was fully 2 feet tall, and lots of green in there like corn stalks. I was shocked. I never went outside at night again. She and her husband owned the Mercedes-Benz dealership in town at the time. I knew instinctively that it was from a Sasquatch. I know this is not the most exciting email you've ever received, but I watch you almost daily and really wanted to tell you my story. Letta Win. Okay, Letta. There you go. Short and sweet, to the point. I found a large pile similar myself one time. I knew what it was and almost made me kind of laugh. And they said, why are you talking about it? It's just a pile of crap in the trail, right? But coincidentally, it was by a lake called Mosquito Lake. And not too far from Mosquito Lake, downhill is where Mount Curry is, native community, and that is as well where these huge male Sasquatch was seen in broad frickin' daylight walking from the Birkenhead River across the pavement by the train track crossing. So I'll be going east to west with fish in its hands, not giving a shit about all the people that saw it. And it was probably a week after that, in that same line of direction, Sarah and I found a print up on top of the hill, random by accident, and it was smoking hot out, and I went to Mosquito Lake to jump in the lake. And on the one trail going down to the lake, there's this pile, and it was probably like this. Maybe a little bigger, about like that, and about like that. Right in the middle of the trail. And I looked at it, I'm like, whoa. That's making a statement, right? Somebody dropped one right there, probably giggling to themselves or whatever. I didn't really give much of a shit at the time myself, so here you go. Making a statement, are ya? And I just carried on. So many sightings around that area I just mentioned. A lot of people have found similar piles on the ground, right? And no, I didn't take any samples because I don't care. The DNA thing, that ship's been sailed so many times it's ridiculous. Alright, here we go. What's this one? This one is titled read now. Sabe Tribe Sketch from Follower. Hey Steve, my name is Dave, retired ironworker from Southern California mountains, getting back onto my art, which was my first passion. I'd like to send you some of my sketches. Good stuff. How can I get them to you? I have some stories too that I think would interest you. I've been hunting in these mountains for most of my life. I've been listening to your channel for a few years now, and I've been wanting to take those stories, and convey them visually for you and your subscribers. I've attached just one so you can take a look and see my work. And if you're interested in seeing more, I can send them to you. I don't want anything, just a bit of your time. You have my permission to show the images on a video if you like. Okay, man. This is a good way to do it, dude. Send them here so that we can instantly share them with everybody. Just like that. Hopefully I remember to put this in the video, right? There you go. Looks human but doesn't, right? Not something you want staring at in your bedroom window. Okay, this is titled. What happened here? Oh, this is a long one. Alright, here we go. Diving in. This is red. Bigfoot story from Native Chief. Steve, below is the experience I had. Please let me know if and when you share this encounter with your viewers. At this time, I choose to remain anonymous. But if I choose to share more of my encounters with these creatures, I'll come forward with my name. Please respect my current wishes. Thank you. No problem. Got your back. My encounter. Hi Steve, I enjoy listening to the different encounters people have had with Sasquatch, but I guess it would be best if I jumped right into one of my encounters with one that differs greatly from most others. I was in the military at the time, posted to Cold Lake, Alberta. Myself, two more of my military buddies, were guiding two out-of-province hunters out of an off-grid cabin just south of Whitelaw, Alberta. We hunted for mule deer and elk in a huge coulee that runs into the north side of the Peace River, and we hunted the neighboring farmlands and coulees as well. Here's a little background on me. I'm native and was raised in a very traditional native way. Until just a couple of months ago, I was the chief of my band until I stepped down so I could get back out onto the land. From the age of 3, my dad took me with him when He was out on the land. By the time I was 7 years of age, I was self-sufficient on the land. I was trained by Dad and Grandfather in fire making with a lighter, matches, flint and steel, and the bow drill. I was trained on how to blaze trails and follow blazed trails. I was trained in how to make shelter, where to find wild edibles, map and compass wild medicines, how to make emergency alder whistles, etc. So when the men went out on the land hunting, fishing, or gathering, I got to go with them. Oftentimes, my cousins who were twice my age were not taking out on the land because they never took the time to learn those survival skills or complained about how far we walked or how cold it was. We walked, hunted, fished, worked, and gathered from daylight to darkness, and often had to walk for miles and miles in the darkness, no flashlights, over the land, allowing our eyes to adjust to the lack of light. We all carried what we each needed to survive, to be self-sufficient on the land. For that day or for weeks at a time. Later, when I was training in the military one night on night maneuvers, I remember the way we crossed the land back then, in perfect balance with it, and how out of balance the military seemed to be when trying to do the same. One group flowed harmoniously over the land, the other not so much. Back to my encounter. One of the hunters we were guiding had a niece that lived in Whitelaw. She knew a farmer who had the cabin that we stayed in. The two out-of-province hunters arrived at camp the night before we showed up, and they each took a bed, upper and lower bunk beds. As I was the head guide, I was given my choice of the remaining 3 sleeping spots in the cabin. I chose the loft bed, as there was a window there that I could open if it got too hot at night, because of the wood stove. The other 2 guides each took a couch. Long story short, I suffered the first night. The cabin must have been built with green logs, and those logs have dried and shrunk greatly since, making the window impossible to open. Well, I was roasted that first night and knew I had to find new sleeping quarters if I was to survive this 10-day hunt. Well, I know that discomfort you're talking about. The next night found me sleeping in the back of a station wagon they rented at the airport. I was parked out in a gravel yard about 25 yards or more from the cabin. This is perfect because on the first night we all found out just how bad one of the other guys in the cabin snored. Every time we get 2 hunters at a time, and I'm in the cabin with both the hunters and wrangler, and every single time there's a diesel truck laying right there. It's crazy, isn't it? We got on the elk and mule deer right away. We're having a blast hunting all over this area. The elk would use this huge coulee as a travel corridor, climbing out from the depths of the coulees in the late evening to feed in the farmers' crops throughout the night, and then sneak back into the hidden retreats of those huge coulees as the morning sun was beginning to heat up the sky. As the hunt went on, the elk were getting wise to us, after the many encounters waiting for that perfect broadside archery shot. So, I would often leave the other hunters and hike off on my own in search of fresh sign and natural bottleneck areas to wait in ambush. On one such hike, I went deeper into the coulees than ever before. The coulee was about 7 kilometers long and 2.5 kilometers wide. I entered into this area and the hair on my neck stood up. There was an eerie feeling that came over me. The forest was dead silent. No birds or squirrels could be seen nor heard. There was a presence there, and not a peaceful one. So I carefully made my way back up out of there. I never told the others about my experience for fear of spooking them. I didn't know if we'd have to track a wounded elk down in there before the hunt was over. Well, I can't remember if it was the 3rd or 4th night that I was sleeping in the station wagon when I was awakened about 4 a.m. by a Sasquatch. He was standing there watching me sleep, only about 8 to 10 feet from me. I opened my eyes slowly, and it never moved. Neither did I. It was silhouetted by the night lights of Whitelaw that glowed in the distant sky behind him. I remember thinking how huge this being was. Its upper body shaped like a giant silverback gorilla. Massive head resting on the widest set of bipod shoulders I've ever seen. It never had red glowing eyes, but the head had a definite crown to it, just like the silverbacks. Strangely enough, I couldn't smell it as it was downwind of me, and there wasn't much of a wind there, but must have been just enough to keep it scentless to me at the time. After a few seconds, which seemed like minutes, I tried sitting up and moving closer to the open back window to get a better look at him. That's when it bolted. I remember thinking about how fast it covered the 75 yards or more to get into the head of the coulee across the clearing and into the tree line. That's when the whooping and the hollering started. It woke up the guys in the camp. It never threw rocks or sticks. It just called out on the clear morning air. It was a haunting sound, one you're not likely to ever forget. To this day, I'm not sure if it was directed at us, if it was upset, or trying to frighten us. But at the time I was thinking it was communicating to others of its kind or family, warning them of our presence there. Once it stopped calling out, I just laid there thinking, did this really happen? Was I dreaming or somewhere in between dreamland and awake? None of us ever talked about what we heard that night. I never told the others what I saw, and it was years afterwards when the oldest of the hunters talked to me about it. He was in his 70s at the time. He asked if I remembered hearing that whooping that woke us all up that night at the elk camp. I said, yes, indeed, I remember it well. He then said, that was no coyote, no wolf, to which I replied, no, it wasn't. That was all that we ever said about it. Now, many others would have been freaked out over this encounter, but for me it was actually comforting in a sense. Look, Steve, if this creature wanted to harm me, it could have taken me in my sleep easily. Its size, speed, and power, even when I was awakened, I would have been totally defenseless against it. It could have reached into the window and hauled me out of it, or parts of me at least. So, in the minutes afterwards, as I strained my eyes to try and see this being where it had entered the woods minutes before, I felt it never wanted to bring me any harm. It stared at me with the same curiosity as I stared back at it. And remember, although it was still in the darkness of the night, it was only about 8 feet from me. I fell back into a peaceful sleep until my alarm woke me. Later that morning, I broke off from the others and walked back into the depths of that coulee where days before I was spooked out of it. This time it was different for me. Although the area was still void of normal woodland sounds and movement, I was at peace there, sharing in the harmony of the land with the presence I sensed that was there watching over me. Like my ancestors before me, we accepted each other's right to share this area, all of it. There was peace in the Peace River Valley once again. For the remainder of the trip, I slept in the cabin on the floor just inside the door, kind of as a barrier for the others inside to what lurked in the darkness of the wild Canadian North woods. I no longer fear those creatures. I fully respect them. I give them their space and move through the woods in harmony with them, connected to the land like never before. There you go. Right on. I appreciate you sending that in. I wonder how many other people you know of that have seen these beings around there. I know the Peace River all the way from Williston Lake all the way down is riddled with experiences, right? Including myself. Riddled. And I was just up the banks from the Peace River where my trail camera was intentionally spun right around about 8 feet off the ground to face the other tree, which was a foot away from it, and where we found all those broken off baby hardwood trees. And I made a video of that. It made a lot of people angry. A lot of people would scream with caps locked, "That's a bear, you stupid ass," and start calling me names. Well, nobody was there. Right? Imagine. Imagine screaming at a guy on the line who's basically guided for everything under the sun in British Columbia for 20 years and telling him what he's looking at in the forest on the ground, right, and that he's wrong. I've seen a lot of trees broken by black bears, especially now. We just noticed some big alders that thick. My friend and I were in the Klanawa Valley hiking in the bush, and you can see the bare teeth. I mean, man, you wouldn't believe how deep the chunks of the wood that the suckers bite right off of that tree. They'll bend those baby trees over and bow them right down and start chewing on them. We were driving up a deactivated road. There's a small bear was up one of those trees and dove out of it and took off. I could see the tree moving. I just got a glimpse of his ass going in the bush. But they go up those trees. Yes, they do, and they do eat them. And they bend them over, eat the new spring shoots. But those ones that we found There wasn't a tooth mark or a claw mark on any of that soft, very soft bark. Nothing. And some of them were broken off like that far from the ground. And there was one group of like 5 or 6 of them were grabbing a bouquet, ripped out of the ground and put down. All the grass, which was around knee to thigh deep tall, was stomped flat. That whole zone. And they could see the line of broken branches whatever it was, continued that way. There's no freaking way it was a bear. No way. No, it wasn't a moose or an elk. But anyway, you got any more knowledge from that Peace Valley, man, the Peace River, send it in if you could. I'd really appreciate it, because I spend a lot of time up there. I'll be back up there again soon by myself. But anyway, I gotta get going. I gotta go buy a bunch of concrete now. And I gotta get my gate posts in. I got a bunch of stuff I gotta do. So much stuff. I'm just gonna get warm out, and I have to get back into the woods quick too. So, there you go. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Okay, you guys? Get it off your chest. You can hear, listen to people. Just writing it down is making people feel better. And it makes them feel way better when they hear it shared with the planet. There you go.
Boy, I can smell them. They're here somewhere. Oh, there he is. Ooh, he's a nice bull. There he is. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah.